Okay, guys, we're going to start our homework for Tuesday, March 23rd. So I want you to take a look at these problems, pause me, and then try to get your answer. We're on to volume. And we might not have talked about all this in class, so I want you to just take your time, read these questions, pause me, try to think what you think the answer is, and then unpause. And this is my first time talking about volume too for fifth grade level. So let's see how we can do together. Okay, everybody pause and do number one. Okay, so number one says, which type of unit might be used to record the volume of a rectangular prism? Well, remember, volume is how much it takes to fill something up, right? So inches is length. Square inches has to do with area, like covering something, like the top of something. Ounces has to do with weight. So cubic inches is the one that has to do with volume. So you got to remember, whenever you see cubic inches, cubic, cubes, different kinds of things, we're going to talk a ton about cubes. That's the volume, how much it takes to fill something up, okay? So don't let square inches fool you. That's area, how much it covering, right? Volume's all about filling things up. So your answer for number one would be D. All right, pause me, read number two, and try to get your answer. Okay, we have done this year to figure out some of our other problems, but volume equals length times width times the height, right? So when they give you 4 by 2 by 3, that's 4 times 2 times 3. 4 and 2 is 8 times 3 equals 24. And you just got to know the formula, right? Because your answer would be C. But let me see if you add them. 4, 7, 9. See, they put 9 in here if you add them. I'm sure 12 is if you multiply. If you just did 4 times 3, you would get the 12. So just make sure you know the formula, okay? Because we're going to talk a lot about that. All right, do number 3. Okay, the volume of an object is the amount, I said this in number 1 already, the space it takes up, right? Right? So it would be A. Now remember, don't get confused by these words, dimensions it has. That's like more about the shape, like the length of sides and stuff, right? Layers you can put in it is a little tricky because technically, you could put layers of things in something and it would be filling up the volume, but A is a way better answer, right? And then D says weight it can hold. Volume doesn't have much to do with weight, okay? All right, do number 4. Okay, so number 4 is about making an estimate, right? You know, a centimeter is small. So 1 cubic centimeter would be something kind of like the shape of like a dice, something like that. So we want to know which one of these kind of boxes would hold 160 of these. So you have to kind of use your common sense here, right? Well, a ring box is like a real little box that a ring comes in with the lid on it. Would 160 of those fit in a ring box? Probably not, right? And they want it to be filled up all the way. Now, a moving box is like a big box like this. So 160 of those would fill up like one little corner, right? We'll talk more about this if this one's confusing to you. Now, a cereal box is a box that is like a good height, good size. That probably makes sense if you stack 160. That seems like the best because a sandbox is huge, right? So although there's no 100% correct way to figure this one out, there's only one that even kind of makes a little bit of sense. And that would be a cereal box. All right, do number 5. Okay, so Tony and Yolani are measuring the volume of a supply box at school. Tony uses a ruler to measure the sides and then multiplies them. And Yolani fills them up with the cubic centimeter cubes, right? And then counts the cubes. And they just want to know how will their numbers compare. Well, if they did it right, they should get exactly the same thing. Because remember, that length times the width, finding that volume is the amount of how many of those things will fit in there, right? So they just want you to understand that it's the same thing, right? And I mean, you just have to know that. I'm trying to think of any way to teach you why the other answers would be wrong, but you just have to know that you could find the volume by those amount of cubes that fit in it, the number of cubes that fit, or by multiplying it out. All right, let's keep going. Do number 6. Okay, so this is another thing. We're talking about the cereal box again, right? And then we're talking about like how many of those little cubes will fit in there. And this is just another one we got to use your common sense, right? 3 is not even close because it's way too small. 3,000 is way too many. Way, way, way too many. Now, I know I've kind of made my picture look like 30 of those might fit in there, but remember the cereal box has depth, right? So there might be 30 of these that could fit in the area of this on the front, right? But remember, the box goes back like this and is deep. So, ooh, that's a horrible box. But there's going to be like a couple of rows behind this, right? So D would be a more realistic estimate for that. All right, let's take a look at number 7. Pause and figure out number 7. Oop, hold on, I'm messing up everything here. So this is just, you just have to know the formula. I already wrote this, right? Like they're just throwing in plus signs in here to try to confuse you. But area equals length times width times height, right? And they all have the length, and it doesn't matter what order you put the length and height and width and height and width. And even if you get the height and width backwards, as long as you're multiplying and pulling out the right numbers from the pictures and stuff that you're multiplying, you'll get it right. I mean, even if you put the height in the length spot, it's not going to change the answer, right? So just know that they're just trying to confuse you by putting plus signs in there, right? All right, take a look at number 8. So number 8, now they just want you to find the volume. So that's length times width times height. It looks like a plus sign, sorry. So now you're just multiplying these numbers, right? So when we go look at our choices, 84 doesn't make sense because it's way too small. 111 doesn't make sense because it's way too small. So one of these two is our answer. Now for test taking strategy, see how they're very close? 763 and 736, one of those is going to come out right. So this is all about you taking your time and doing your multiplication slowly so that you can see it, right? And taking your time. Because if I'm sure one of these is probably the change in a regrouping or something, right? But I'm not going to work out the whole, well, I will. 16, carry the 1, 12, 13, placeholder, 8, 2 times 3 is 6. So to do those first two, I've now got 8 plus 3 is 11, regroup 7, 6, 7, 8. So now I've got 8, 16, 8, 16, and I've still got to multiply it by this 24. And see, they didn't make it easy for you, right? Because you got to do this all the way out because they gave you two that are very close together. So let's see here. 8 times 6 is 24, carry the 2, 6, 32, placeholder. 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1, 3, and 16. Now when I start adding these across, oh gosh, I'm not even getting it right myself. What did I do wrong? Oh, look what I did wrong, people. Look. I put 34 up here instead of 36. That's why I'm not getting the right answer. So there's an example of why you need to take your time, right? So if you guys work this out, multiply these out, you should get C. C should be the answer. Look how easy it is to make a mistake. And see, right when I added down the 4, I knew there was a 4 in the ones. Well, this is a 3 and a 6. So I knew I messed up somewhere. And I messed up right at the very beginning. So don't let that happen to you. All right, let's do number 9. Number 9 is the same thing, right? You're just finding length times width times height because it wants you to find the volume again, right? Well, 8 times 3 is 24. And 24 times 12. You would then have this 8 times this 3 is this 24 times this 12. Now, you can look over here again, and there's some answers that already don't make sense, right? It can't be 23 because you're already at 24 right here. And 882 sounds kind of big, right? For 24 times 12, because 20 times 10 only gets you 200 something. So your answer should be, if we're estimating 20 and 10, your answer should be around 200, right? So if you multiply 24 times 12, you should have gotten D, which is 288. But look, they made these answers very close together. If you mess up like I did on your multiplication, the good news is you got to get one of the two of them, right? The bad news is they make the wrong answer a common mistake. This mistake I made up here, way up here, that's not a common mistake. That's not paying attention, right? But some of these mistakes in regrouping in this area here, or in your adding down here, they'll make this other choice that. All right, let's take a look at number 10. Number 10 is the same problem, right? Volume 3 by 3 by 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 more is 27. You should have got that one pretty easily. But look, if you don't know the formula and you add 3 plus 3 plus 3, 9, there it is right there. Really no, if you just added 2 of them, you would get 6, and that's right there. How you would get 12. Maybe if you accidentally multiplied something. So those are the problems you need to put your answers in for, but a couple more I want to look at real quick. Which of the following cubes is a unit cube? For it to be a unit cube, every side has to equal 1. You just need to memorize that. The unit cubes, the sides need to be 1, right? They have to be 1. It has to have a length and a width and a depth of 1 unit. So this has 3s and 4s, so this would not be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So this would be a unit cube. We're going to talk a ton about this. Don't let this one confuse you. Just because these are 6s does not mean they equal 1. They've got to be 1s. This is actually, I was actually confused for a second when I looked at this, because I go, this is actually too easy. But look, 1 and 1. But remember, there's got to be a length and a width and a height. This just has a length and a width, right? I guess a height, depending on what you want to say. So that would not be it either, because this is a flat shape, right? You can't load a volume into something that's flat, right? And then they gave us this big hard question. It says Oscar wants to determine the volume of the chicken in cubic inches. Cube, right? When you see the word cube, that's when you need to start to know that it needs to be 1 by 1 by 1, right? And so the unit cube length, height, and width, I mean, it's all very simple. They all need to be 1. And that was the answer. It really threw me off. So just make sure you remember that as you go through. Whenever you hear cubic inches or cube or anything cubed, it's got to be the every side's got to be 1. And that's not saying that they'll all be 1 only. Like they have to be 1 for you to find volume. I don't mean that. But when you're using the unit cubes that we're going to talk about in class to find the volume, each one of those cubes has got to be the same size, 1 by 1 by 1, right? We're going to talk a ton more about this. This is just the intro to this. So, and the last one, you only need to do the first 10 are the only ones that are in Canvas, but I just want you to see these ones. So Isaiah needs to determine the volume of his locker, which of the unit cubes. So we know it's all got to be 1s, right? The length, the width, and the height all have to be 1s, right? When you see unit cubes. Select the 2 correct answers. Well, 1, 1, 3. That's not it. 1, 1, 1. That is one of the answers. 5. Nope. 1, 1, 1. Now, an important thing to remember, it can be inches, feet, centimeters, doesn't matter. They all need to be 1, though. For unit cubes, anything a cube that measures the units, got to be 1s. So your answer would be C and D here. This is just an intro. If this was horribly confusing to you, that is totally okay. This is just us starting. This is day 2 of talking about this stuff. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow.